This is SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. You know, the government safety net, designed to make sure that vulnerable Americans don't literally starve to death. But unfortunately, SNAP participants have been using their benefits to make extremely unhealthy choices, and the government has been looking the other way, at least until recently.
Giving up junk food may sound like a New Year's resolution, but for some SNAP recipients, it will soon be the law. The move is part of the government's Make America Healthy Again initiative, designed to reduce obesity and chronic diseases like diabetes.
It's about nutrition, and there's no nutrition in these products. We shouldn't be paying for them with taxpayer money.
Suggesting that nutrition assistance should be used to buy actual nutrition? Crazy concept, I know.
Hawaii's limits apply to just soft drinks, Indiana to soda and candy, and South Carolina to candy, energy drinks, soft drinks, and sweetened beverages.
And currently, there are 22 states that will have some sort of restriction. But because the media treats the concept of personal responsibility like a human rights violation, reporters rushed out to find people that are utterly outraged that you won't subsidize their Mountain Dew.
Hannah Moore believes she and other SNAP recipients should be able to go into the grocery store and buy whatever they like.
That's not even cool. Like, why they do that?
Soda, candy, prepackaged sweets, prepared desserts, and juice with less than half of natural fruit or vegetable juice in it will not be allowed to be purchased on SNAP cards.
What's the point of food stamps if it's just for real food? Thank God I don't got kids, but the people out there that got kids, it's not gonna be cool.
Moore says she's more into fruits and veggies, but worries about families with kids potentially unable to purchase snacks.
Yeah, what a tragedy. The children will be forced to eat an apple. Call Child Protective Services immediately.
Sometimes adults might want to snack something every now and then.
Okay, and why should the government and the American taxpayer be forced to pay for that snack exactly?
We all agree that we want people to have opportunities to have healthier foods.
Stephanie Silvera is a public health professor at Montclair State University.
If what we're simply doing is cutting access to those foods without also providing better access or more affordable access to healthy foods, we're going to see a lot more people go hungry.
That's because healthier food tends to be more expensive.
And that's based on a 2013 Harvard study that found it cost an extra $1.50 per day to afford a nutritious diet rather than an unhealthy one. However, that study didn't factor in how people use SNAP, and it turns out that staples like rice, dried beans, frozen vegetables, and bananas are incredibly cheap, much cheaper per calorie than a family-sized bag of Doritos. Plus, SNAP is designed to be supplemental, not your entire grocery budget. It's literally in the name.
But employees at the Food Research and Action Center fear there will be confusion from these policies over what can be purchased with SNAP benefits.
It's going to cause a lot of confusion. It's going to cause a lot of shame and stigma, and people not knowing why items they could have purchased beforehand are no longer eligible.
Ah, yes, the crushing shame and stigma of having to pull out $1.50 of your own money to buy a Snickers bar like everyone else. How will they ever recover from the trauma?
A 2025 report from the three industry trade groups estimated that implementing SNAP restrictions would cost retailers $1.6 billion up front, a financial loss that could discourage grocers from participating in SNAP.
Grocers are going to turn down free money from the government? Yeah, they aren't going anywhere. Also, the three groups behind the 2025 study that was mentioned in the news segment are the American Association of Convenience Stores, the National Grocers Association, and FMI, the Food Marketing Institute. All three spend millions of dollars each year to influence policy in Washington. And one of those groups, the National Grocers Association, was represented by Michael Gay, the owner/operator of Food Fresh in Claxton, Georgia, at a May 2024 House Oversight hearing.
With SNAP Choice, every American, regardless of their financial situation, has the flexibility to shop and feed themselves and their families in the way that works best for them. That's good for all of us.
SNAP Choice is the term created by the grocery industry that basically serves as a giant PR smokescreen for, please don't touch our junk food revenue.
Restricting eligible items to those by the USDA will quickly drive up food costs and strangle the program with needless red tape. Given that grocers operate on a 1% to 2% net profit margin, we cannot afford to absorb the cost for implementing SNAP restrictions, and it could be passed on by burdening all of our customers at this time of record inflation.
Ah yes, the needless red tape of having a computerized point-of-sale system automatically recognize that a soda isn't eligible.
In Philadelphia, the city implemented a 1.5% soda tax, leading to a 25% drop in business for one NGA member, forcing the store to close its doors. If a grocer goes out of business and the community loses access to food and the locality loses a crucial tax base.
If a 1.5% tax on Sprite caused a 25% drop in your total business and single-handedly forced you to close your doors, that means that you weren't running a grocery store. You were running a giant vending machine.
Owner Jeff Brown says the store has lost approximately 25% of its business over the last 2 years. The mayor's office says neither Brown nor the beverage industry have presented evidence that the tax has impacted sales. Brown says more than 100 employees will be transferred to his other 12 supermarkets.
Wait, so only one of his 13 locations was affected by the soda tax? Yeah, that owner's full of it. And so is the National Grocers Association for pushing this BS without any proof whatsoever.
Piloting this program also puts grocers in border towns at risk of going out of business because SNAP participants are likely to cross state lines to use their benefits as they choose.
So Mr. Gay is suggesting that SNAP participants at his store may choose to cross state lines to spend their benefits elsewhere. But it should be noted that Claxton, Georgia is an 1.5-hour drive to the border of South Carolina and a 2-hour drive to the border of Florida. But according to Mr. Gay, a family struggling to afford groceries is definitely going to burn $30 in gas on a 3 to 4 hour round trip just to buy a taxpayer-funded 12-pack of Dr. Pepper. Makes sense to me. What's your problem?
If SNAP customers choose to stay and shop with me instead of leaving the state, they will encounter their neighbor, the cashier, who has just become the food police. My cashiers will now have to tell people what they can and cannot purchase for their families. This will cause embarrassing disruptions at the register, impacting every customer that comes into my store.
Ah, yes, the dreaded food police argument. Because a cash register beeping at a pack of Skittles is a uniquely traumatizing event. Now, let's watch Congressman Andy Harris, a former physician at Johns Hopkins, step in and systematically dismantle Michael Gay's entire testimony.
I have a question about the National Grocers Association because in your testimony, on page 2, paragraph begins, "We all share the same goal of improving the health of Americans." Do members of the National Grocers Association sell tobacco in their stores?
Some of them do, yes.
Do you?
I do.
So you sell tobacco in your stores, but you claim we all share the same goal of improving it. Do you think that improves the health of Americans?
Do I?
Yeah.
I leave those options up to the customers. It has no bearing on what I think is nutritious for my customers.
Okay, but it says we share the same goal of improving the health. So if you share that goal, why would you sell tobacco in your stores? I'm missing something here. Is it because there's a profit to be made from selling tobacco in your stores? Because customers want it?
It's because there's a customer
Customer demand for a product that's bad for their health. You make a profit, so you sell it. I get it. And not all members of your group do.
And just like that, the whole "we deeply care about public health" facade completely evaporates. It was never about health. It was about moving highly addictive, high-margin product. But Congressman Harris, he wasn't done yet.
You say you don't want your cashiers to be the SNAP police. Do you sell alcohol in your store?
Yes.
Oh, you do? And when you go to the checkout, does your cashier have to do anything to the person with the alcohol in their cart?
Yes, they have to check for an ID, which is a law of the land.
Sure, and the same with tobacco, right?
Correct.
So your cashiers are already police for unhealthy things, right?
No, sir. That's a legal. Are you going to put in the pilot program that I have to check IDs for SNAP participants?
No, what we're going to say
is that's how they become the police.
We're going to say you're going to limit things. So, for instance, If someone with a WIC card comes up and puts something in a basket that is not eligible for WIC, does your cashier have to say, well, you can't use your WIC funds on that?
Yes.
Oh, so they're policing WIC as well.
Exactly. The idea that blocking SNAP funds for a candy bar would cause some sort of unprecedented apocalyptic meltdown at the register, well, it's a complete fabrication by the grocery lobby, and it's designed to protect their bottom line.
If Congress tried to ban or severely regulate sugar consumption, the American people would be extremely upset. It isn't how we do things in this country. I don't think they will see this as showing that they matter and that it's designed for their benefit. It will say to them that they can be treated like children and they can be told what not to eat.
If we take away their government-funded candy and soda, Americans will be extremely upset. What a stupid argument. And you will not be surprised that Congressman Bishop has received campaign contributions from the National Association of Convenience Stores and FMI. And it will also not be a surprise that Congressman Bishop would argue with a doctor about what is and isn't healthy.
Well, you're going to take a whole bunch of money and reduce the amount of soda consumed. 40% of SNAP purchases are for soda. That's going to free up a whole lot of money that can then be used to supplement, to improve nutrition.
But it provides a supplemental payment.
Well, you have to understand
that nutritious program.
You have to understand.
In other words, it's an additional support.
You have to understand that we are not really talking about nutrition, Ranking Member Bishop. We are talking about toxicology. You are providing a poison and you are providing it at a free price point. And that is what needs to change.
So back in March, the National Center for Law and Economic Justice filed a lawsuit on behalf of 5 SNAP participants against the United States Department of Agriculture and Secretary Brooke Rollins. The lawsuit claims that by approving food restriction waivers in 22 states, that the USDA is depriving SNAP recipients and their families of the food that they need to survive. The first plaintiff is Amanda Johnson, who lives in Tennessee and relies on SNAP benefits to afford to buy groceries for herself and her daughter. Johnson's daughter has specific food needs and has avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, or ARFID, a serious eating disorder that causes a person to have a diet that is so limited it leads to medical, nutritional, and/or psychosocial problems. Because of her daughter's ARFID, she can safely consume only a very limited number of safe foods. At the time of the filing, Johnson's daughter could only consume the following foods and beverages: Encore chicken nibblers, Ore-Ida extra crispy fast food fries, Frosted hot fudge sundae Pop-Tarts, Welch's fruit snacks, berries and cherries flavor, Mott's fruit snacks, and M&Ms. Wait, even the green M&Ms? Her safe beverages are Hawaiian Punch lemon berry squeeze, Welch's fruit punch, and Kroger brand bottled water. Once the Tennessee waiver goes into effect in July of this year, Johnson will not be able to use SNAP to purchase most of these medically necessary items for her daughter. If she is unable to eat those foods, the only alternative is nutrition through a feeding tube. But the complaint points out that Johnson would still be able to buy her daughter the chicken nibblers, the fries, and the bottled water, which are arguably the healthiest items in her safe foods list. Her physicians have advised plaintiff Johnson to provide her daughter with whatever food she is able to eat in order to avoid nutritional deterioration and invasive medical intervention. Ms. Johnson, I'm not going to sugarcoat this, mostly because we need all of the available sugar for your daughter's treatment, but if she can't eat what she wants, her system will be critically deprived of artificial flavors and hydrogenated oils. But claiming that SNAP restrictions are going to starve a 19-year-old because the USDA refuses to subsidize Welch's fruit snacks is just emotional blackmail disguised as a legal argument. The next plaintiff is Marc Craig from Iowa, who has specific food needs, an extremely limited income, and until recently was unhoused. While he was unhoused, he slept in his car and had no access to a kitchen. As a result, the only foods he could consume were those that did not require cooking or refrigeration. Okay, fair enough. If you're living out of a Honda Civic, you can't exactly roast a turkey, and relying on ready-to-eat non-perishable food makes total sense. But he is now living in an apartment with a kitchen. Great, good for Marc. So why is this previous lack of a kitchen being used as the primary argument in his lawsuit? However, he is still working to acquire kitchen supplies that would help him cook healthy meals. And that's the government's problem, right? Under the Iowa waiver, SNAP eligibility now depends on not only the type of food, but also on complex factors, such as whether a retailer has a seating area and whether the food was prepared on site. Mr. Craig has found it difficult to follow these rules, given their inherent ambiguity. Because of these ambiguities, Mr. Craig may purchase certain foods with SNAP at some stores, but not at others. Since the waiver took effect, Mr. Craig has been deprived of access to food because of this inconsistency. At some retailers, he was not able to purchase sandwiches and salads, while at other retailers, he was able to do so. The rules are actually pretty simple. If a cold deli sandwich or salad is prepackaged or even freshly made to order and is intended for you to take home, it is SNAP eligible. However, if the store has a seating area or an in-store cafe, and that prepared food is intended to be eaten on the premises, it becomes ineligible. But really complex rules, guys. Many of the items that remain consistently SNAP eligible across retail locations are nutritionally inappropriate, such as ice cream. Wait, hang on. Are they complaining that the government is letting you buy junk food in a lawsuit where they're actively suing the government for the right to buy junk food? Many items are prohibitively expensive, such as pre-cut fruit. Then buy uncut fruit. Are we seriously pretending that a paring knife is some sort of unattainable luxury item? You don't need a Michelin star kitchen setup to peel a banana or wash a grape. A whole apple costs like 80 cents, just bite into it. The next plaintiff is Nathan Fleming, who is disabled and unable to work, and has a chronic spine condition and chronic insomnia. To manage his insomnia and remain functional during the day, he must consume caffeine. Without it, he is unable to stay awake and cannot effectively manage his other medical conditions. Wait, so he has insomnia and can't sleep at night, but if he doesn't have caffeine during the day, he'll fall asleep. Whatever you do, don't sleep during the day and take care of your business at night, because that might make too much sense. Fleming is allergic to most plant-based products, including coffee and tea, and as a result, the only caffeinated products he can safely consume are certain energy drinks. He works with a dietitian to manage his weight and health conditions, and his dietitian has identified specific low or no sugar energy drinks that meet his medical and dietary needs without triggering allergic reactions. So again, Mr. Fleming has a severe allergy to coffee beans and tea leaves, but the lab-synthesized glowing radioactive chemicals in Monster Energy Zero Ultra, they go down incredibly smooth. Got it. Yes, I could recommend caffeine pills, but they have no flavor. Where's the fun in that? Seriously, why is a dietitian recommending energy drinks as a caffeine source when you can buy a bottle of 90 caffeine caplets at Walmart for like less than $5? Seems kind of irresponsible. The next plaintiff is Nieves Aragon from Colorado, who relies on SNAP benefits to purchase groceries for herself and her child. Her income is limited. She earns approximately $1,300 a month after taxes, has no other source of income, and her wages are only enough to cover household expenses. SNAP benefits are the only money Aragon has available to feed herself and her child. And her income is limited because she is a full-time student and part-time activist. Nieves Aragon is an engagement fellow with Young Invincibles, where she connects young adults across Colorado to advocacy opportunities and policy education. Her advocacy extends into real-world impact, including her work with organizations like Hunger Free Colorado and her involvement in legislation to ensure children have access to free meals in schools. She is also engaged in advocacy around SNAP waiver restrictions, which would affect many families facing food insecurity. And now she's involved in a lawsuit against the federal government over the exact same SNAP restrictions that she's literally paid to lobby against? What a shocking coincidence! To prevent dangerous drops in blood sugar due to her diabetes, Aragon regularly uses small juice boxes and small cans of soda as fast-acting glucose sources. Aragon has determined that small sugary beverages are the most reliable and efficient means of raising her blood sugar quickly. But under the Colorado waiver, she is unable to use her SNAP benefits to purchase many of the beverages on which she relies to manage her diabetes. Fact check false. She can buy juice boxes that contain 100% fruit juice. Buying drinks with natural sugar, like apple juice, is completely unrestricted under Colorado SNAP rules. Literally no one is stopping Nieves from buying actual juice. To obtain these medically necessary items, Aragon will be forced to divert limited cash income from other essential household expenses, including gasoline and her child's extracurricular activities. Aragon will suffer devastating and irreparable harm as a result of the waiver. She will be unable to use her SNAP benefits to buy medically necessary items and must choose between spending money needed for other household essentials and risking her health. Devastating and irreparable harm. She could just use her EBT card to buy a case of juicy juice. But instead, Nieves Aragon is suing the federal government over its refusal to buy her soda. In reality, she's the one that's actively choosing to live on a part-time income while going to school full-time. Absolute clown world. And finally, there's Sarah Starks, aka Hunter Starks, who resides in Charleston, West Virginia. Starks is a single parent who has received SNAP on and off since their 9-year-old daughter was born. Starks works part-time and goes to school full-time. It should be noted that 4 years ago, The Guardian featured Hunter in an article about child tax credits. Hunter Starks is a single parent with a 4-year-old daughter. They previously worked as a social worker while working part-time as a political organizer, often logging more than 50 hours a week. They will soon start a new full-time job as a paralegal in addition to their part-time organizing work. So at least 2 of the 5 plaintiffs in the SNAP lawsuit are activists? What are the odds? Starks is the sole caregiver for their child. SNAP benefits are the only money available to purchase the food the household needs. Because of Starks' work, school obligations, and parenting responsibilities, Starks' daily schedule is physically and mentally demanding. Yeah, welcome to the real world. Millions of people do what Sarah does every single day without suing the government. But let's see what sort of legal relief is being demanded to survive the absolute agony of having a busy schedule. Prior to implementation of the West Virginia waiver, Starks relied on certain beverages, including soda, as a moderate source of caffeine to maintain the energy and alertness necessary to meet those work, school, and parenting obligations. Starks avoids consuming coffee in the afternoon because of its higher caffeine content. Then drink half a cup. What the hell? As a result, Starks' ability to maintain the energy necessary to work, attend school, or care for their child has been impaired. This is imposing irreparable harm. Irreparable harm? Why? Because the United States government won't purchase Hunter's mid-afternoon Diet Coke to meet her Goldilocks level caffeine preferences? Talk about entitled. Anyway, that's it for now. Head on over to my super cool merch store at don'twalkrun.shop. As always, Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time, if there is next time.